The May 20th, 2024 meeting of the Bay City City Commission will come to order. The clerk will give the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Dockett.
I'm here.
Rivet.
Yes.
Bernie.
Yes.
Runner.
Here.
Hilliker. Here. Gerard.
Here.
Clements.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Mayor.
Is there a motion to excuse the mayor? Commissioner Gerard.
Move to excuse, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Morris.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the mayor is excused. First order of business is proclamations and presentations, awards, and recognition. We have 3 of these on the agenda tonight. First one up is our proclamation for LGBTQ plus Pride Month, June 2024, and I believe Mr. Ellis is in the audience. Do you have others with you as well? Just you receiving it? Okay, let me grab a mic real quick. You want to come up too? It's long. It's a long one. We're going this way. Sorry. Are we on? There we go. All right. Mr. Ellis, we have a proclamation for you from the city. I am not the mayor, but I'm going to read this as if she were speaking. Whereas the movement towards equal rights for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, a historic turning point occurred on January 28, 1969 in New York City with the onset of the Stonewall riots. During these riots, LGBTQ plus citizens rose and fought against discriminatory criminal laws and have since been declared unconstitutional. Whereas LGBTQ plus Pride celebrations have taken place around the country every June to commemorate the beginning of the Stonewall riots, and whereas June is celebrated as LGBTQ plus Pride Month nationwide, and whereas Great Lakes Bay Pride, a local nonprofit, works to connect the LGBTQ plus ally community to resources, education, offering network opportunities and advocates for LGBTQ plus rights in the Great Lakes Bay region and beyond. And whereas our nation was founded on the principle of equal rights for all people, but the fulfillment of this promise has been long coming for many Americans. Some of the most inspiring moments in our history have arisen from the various civil rights movements that have brought one group after another from the margins to the mainstream of American society. And whereas the city of Bay City supports the rights of every citizen to experience equality and freedom from discrimination. Now therefore I, Kathleen L. Newsham, Mayor of the City of Bay City, do hereby proclaim June 2024 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month, and urge residents to celebrate with our members of the LGBTQ plus community. Furthermore, recognizing the contributions made by members of the LGBTQ plus community and to actively promote the principles of equality, liberty, and justice. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Bay City to be affixed on this, the 20th day of May, in the year of our Lord, 2024. Thank you for everything, Scott. There you are. Yeah, picture. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Mr. Ike from the Bay City First Quarter Report.
Well, good evening, Bay City. My name is Sarah Parker, and I'm the Director of Workforce Development at the Bay Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for welcoming not only myself, but our dynamic team with the Hay Bay City Initiative. A huge thank you also to our city, county, and community for the support and excitement for Hay Bay City. Oh, I have this, sorry. All right, so we're gonna get into our website metrics for workforce development for Q1. We had 44 Bay County employers sign up to post over 150 open opportunities. With over 74 employer, educator, local workforce development agencies, and community partner visits, we've been able to develop personal relationships with not only our employers, but other community advocates as well. For our end goal conversion, we've been using the apply clicks metric. This is the same exact metric used by the MEDC. Because we are currently unable to see what happens after the apply click, we utilize this metric to view how many applicants are using Hay Bay City for open opportunities. We're seeing a 141% increase in apply clicks. In Q1, we had a total of 707 apply clicks. This means that an open Bay County opportunity was clicked on 707 times. In the future, we hope to use our face-to-face meetings and relationship building with employers and job seekers to see what could potentially happen after the apply click is made. As you can see, all of our metrics are up by a large percentage. Hay Bay City is gaining steam and momentum, moving forward in a very impactful way. Again, we would not be able to do this without our partners and collaboration between city, county, and community. In 2023, we had a total job page view of 86,000. In Q1 alone, we're at 79,000 job page views. This to me is just an amazing with our end goal of attracting, retaining, and training our talent. As a born and raised Bay County resident, I cannot wait to see what the future holds with your continued support. We're extremely proud and excited about our upcoming STEM Fest and Community Resource Fair on June 8th. This event was originally going to be hosted at the Bay Aranac ISD Career Center. However, due to tremendous interest, we had to move it to Delta, and they were gracious enough to open up their gym for us. Hay Bay City and the Bay Area Chamber is partnering with other community advocates to make this event possible and accessible for all of our Bay County students. As of today, we have 261 Bay County students, K through 12, signed up to participate in our STEM Fest. The morning will kick off with a welcome and explanation of purpose from Hay Bay City. We will then dismiss the parents and students to visit our community resource vendors and over 35 STEM activities, including a drone cage and a Lego area. The Community Resource Fair will highlight and explain the many resources available to our community that our students and families may not be aware of. Our goal is to provide Bay County families with the resources our beautiful community has to offer. As mentioned earlier, Hay Bay City has had 74 visits with employers, educators, local workforce development agencies, and other community partners to discuss recruiting strategies and workforce needs. Out of these 74 visits, we had 44 employers sign up and post open opportunities in our community. In Q1, we received 47 resumes, either from Typeform, which is our submission platform, or personally submitted to myself. We've also made over 20 direct connections between job seekers and opportunities. We now have a resume database that can be filtered by skill set and/or key attributes of the applicant to best connect them with the open opportunities. When job seekers are submitting their resumes, we've also added a question to see if they're interested in getting more information on career fairs and expos in our city. We're also working directly with Michigan Works and collaborating with our awesome community partners and superintendents to bridge the gap between education, our talent pipeline, and the workforce. Once again, I just wanted to thank you all for taking the time to hear from the workforce development portion of Hay Bay City. We're so thankful for the continued support from the city, the county, and our community. We can't do this alone. It will be as they say, it takes a village. We're working diligently to right the ship for building up our population and talent pipeline. Thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to continue to show that Bay County is the city that does things.
Good evening, everybody. Just a quick note as we jump into the marketing slides. You'll see a lot of screenshots, and all of these screenshots come directly from the platforms that we use to pull the data for these presentations. So for the website, it's Google Analytics. For email, it is MailChimp, and for social media, it's Buffer. And this is just so that we're all looking at the same screens, the same numbers. On the social media side, in quarter one, 1.47 million views. That's 130% better than quarter four. 1,298 followers, new followers, that is 166% better than quarter four. And 44,481 link clicks, most of that to the website. That's an increase of 1,158% compared to quarter four. Most of that website traffic comes directly from social media in both paid and organic forms. The second most popular source is direct, so people typing heybaycity.com directly into their browser. Paid search, that's using Google AdWords in a keyword advertising campaign, and so people search for specific keywords, and based on who they are, where they're located, and how much money we spend, Google will show our link up at the top of their search results. Those keywords are predominantly targeted towards workforce-related keywords in Michigan, so if somebody searches jobs in Michigan, careers in Michigan, jobs in Bay City, Saginaw, Midland, etc., we have a higher likelihood of appearing on those search results. With the idea being that these are people already looking for work, already potentially looking for a new community to live in, and so leading to a higher rate of conversion, and hopefully them becoming citizens or staying citizens. Sometimes numbers, especially big numbers like millions, what exactly does that mean? So it's helpful to give a little bit of context. So on the left side, I've pulled Facebook pages from other talent attraction retention efforts across the state and across the country, along with their follower count, a change over the course of a week, and then how long they've been around. I want to point out that the other efforts here are all regional, so they represent giant sections of a state or multiple counties, except for us. We're the only county-specific effort here, and that'll be significant in just a second. If you take a look on this list, let's say the third one down, Hello West Michigan, it's kind of a big name in the world of attraction and retention here in Michigan. They're really great people doing great things, not just for their region, but for the state of Michigan when it comes to this challenge. And so it was always a fun goal of ours from the beginning to try to overtake them in audience size. And in quarter one, we were able to do that, so yay us. Also to note, they've been around for 14 years, and Hay Bay City's been public for about a year and a half. So we've got a lot of energy and momentum behind what we're doing, which is great to see. Just to give those numbers a little bit further context, I mentioned that these are regional efforts. For example, Hello West Michigan represents a population of 1.6 million people. Hay Bay City represents a population of around 103,000. So if we wanted to play a little apples to apples and imagine if we had the same population size as Hello West Michigan, that would give us a following of about 174,000. So comparatively, we've got a lot of momentum, we've got a lot of energy, we're building attention. The trick and the challenge will be sustaining that over the course of the next year and the future of this effort and this community. On the website, for quarter one, 107,000 views with 54,000 users. Compared to quarter four, that's 300% or 292% better in views and 387% better in users. Because we're now more than a year into this effort being public, we can start pulling at the same time this year kind of statistics. And so compared to quarter one of 2023, we're about 245% better in views And then in terms of users compared to quarter one of 23, we're about 424%. That's significant because at the beginning of developing this effort, it was kind of the mutual agreed upon goal that we would increase our growth by 20% each quarter, for a total annual growth of 80%. So provided we keep working hard and we see this kind of momentum continue through this year, we're on track to considerably surpass those goals. In quarter one, we rolled out a new tool in the tool belt, a billboard advertising campaign. These locations rotate every month. The last one, the newest one, just went up on Salzburg last week. So as you drive by in Salzburg, you'll be able to see that. For impressions, so the number of times the billboard was seen for quarter one, 776,720 impressions. We get those numbers directly from Lamar, the company that we lease the billboard space from. More people are using the website more, which is a great sign. They're landing on the website, they're clicking around to stories and then the job board or vice versa, and that's great to see. Most of those people come from Bay City, Bay County, which is to be expected, but what was not expected here in quarter one was kind of a great development that hot on our heels are folks from Detroit, from Metro Detroit area. So that's great to see that, hey, Bay City, word is getting out, advertising is working, and then we're starting to reach into other segments of the state of Michigan. We did a whole bunch of stories from January to the beginning of April. Some that you might have seen recently or will be seeing. Pinconning High School went over there, interviewed some cast members of their production of the Mean Girls musical. Mike Gavin and Delta College specifically about scholarships and opportunities in skilled trades. By the beginning of the summer, we will have highlighted every single program available at the Bay Aranac ISD Career Center through the stories of the kids who get to experience and are enriched by those programs. Last week it was Auburn and the opening of Riser's Kitchen, a great new breakfast lunch joint there. It's run by 4 young entrepreneurs who grew up in Auburn, love the community, are trying to invest in the community. So if you find yourself over in Auburn, definitely stop by for some pancakes. Wolverine Fireworks coming up. They actually create the fireworks shows for the Bay City Fireworks Festival, so hung out with them. This week, you've got highlighting events going on in downtown Bay City, as well as a look at the bass tournament series. We've got 4 pretty big name tournaments happening here this summer. And we're looking at the direct impact they have on our community this year, but then also the potential they have for shaping the identity and potential of Bay City and Bay County in the future. Placemaking efforts continue with our 4 community mural project. We're putting up a mural in Bay City, specifically on Midland Street, Pinconning, Auburn, and Essexville, just as a visual way to connect these different communities across Bay County. We've collected the codes and ordinances so we know what we can do and what we cannot do. We have a list of potential buildings, but looking for a few more options. And then now the next step is to develop the public engagement to come up with the subject and the theme, and then of course the fundraising necessary to pull it off. Creating emotional connections and a sense of ownership is also a form of placemaking, and so to do that, we're going to team up with the Energize Young Professional Network for a monthly event called Coffee and a Cleanup. So this is going to be at different locations throughout Bay City and Bay County for just 1 hour. We're going to meet up, we're going to clean as much as we can, and then we'll meet up at a local coffee shop for a complimentary thank you coffee. The first one's on June 22nd from 8 to 9 a.m. We're going to meet in front of the Central High School and then focus on that Columbus Avenue corridor. Anybody can show up to that, so you don't have to be a young professional, but be ready to clean and get caffeinated. I'm going to end every report with just a quick review and a reminder of why Hey Bay City exists in the first place and why it's necessary to continue working in a community. There's so many things to focus on and things that need our attention and challenges to address. It can be easy to forget something that really has consequences for us 20 years down the road. But in 2020, Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works projected our population in Bay County to decrease by 19%. by the year 2045. That's losing about 1,000 people every year. That means that our workforce will decrease actually by 27%, so it's a more dramatic number than what you see on the slide. Left unchecked, that would lead to 67 straight years of population decline. Per capita, Bay County is the oldest county in Michigan, and before Hay Bay City, we were the only region without any intentional and organized attraction retention effort. Most of the efforts that are in place have been in place for 12 to 15 years. So we're about more than a decade behind the rest of the state in terms of addressing this issue. I say all of that not to make us sad, but to make us aware of the size of this challenge. Hay Bay City was developed as really the tip of the spear and leading the charge, but in order to right this ship, it's going to take all of us, whether you're a Bay County employer or an educational institution or a city or county commissioner or a parent or anybody with some kind of stake in this community. It's going to take all of us working hard for a long time with this issue at the forefront of our thinking in order to make a dramatic and transformative change. So I'd like to thank you for your time today and for your support. Here's our email addresses. If you have any questions or suggestions, or you want to reach out and have a conversation about how to do this and do this better and talk about ideas, we're open to all of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any questions from anyone? Nobody? I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate that you brought the Google Analytics and the buffer numbers and the MailChimp numbers this time, so that there's no question about where those numbers are coming from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nobody? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you very much for your time. Next item is budget. So if Mr. Martini wants to come forward, we can, I think we're finishing this out tonight, right? That's the plan? That's the plan. So I don't know last week how this part was run, but we'll run this kind of the same way we did the first week. When Mr. Martini gets to the end of a section, if you have questions, let me know, and I will call on you and you can ask. Sound good? Thank you.
Good evening. Yes, this is the third and final presentation regarding the 2025 budget process. And although Commissioner Dockett wasn't here last week, we did not finish up all of the slides associated with the other funds. So we've got half a dozen slides or a dozen slides for the starting with the self-insurance fund. So if I may, I'll go ahead and get started on it right away. The self-insurance fund, of course, is, the city is primarily self-insured. We do have, I would say, catastrophic claims policies through MMRMA that basically cover the high deductible stuff, but we cover pretty much most of the small stuff. And this year, our charges for services, which is what that fund bills out to the other funds in the city, actually had to increase a little bit. We increased it by $150,000 because the reserve balance in that fund was getting a little on the low side. So what we're trying to do is build that up, and that's reflected in the other sources of $271,000. going down by 38%, that's how much less fund balance we're using this year. We're actually trying to build it back up. So total revenues are about the same amount, but again, a little bit different mix and a little bit more expensive for the individual departments. And again, this reflects the expenses. And again, as I said, what it is we have a fairly significant policy with MMRMA, which is covering our catastrophic, and then the other services also reflect just, you know, the damages of a car crash or something like that. So it's all part of what goes into that self-insurance fund. Life insurance, this is the fund that receives all of the payroll deductions or the charges to all of the individual funds that have employees, and it goes into the life insurance fund, and then we pay out of this fund the actual policy costs for our life insurance coverage for our employees. Significant increase, almost 12%, which reflects higher salaries, of course, as well as rates, and in general, an increase. Workers' compensation, much like the self-insurance fund, the city is self-insured for workers' compensation. I believe, again, we have some catastrophic coverage, but for the most part, our workers' comp claims are paid for by the city. And charges for services to the other departments went up about 18%. Interest and rents, this is the money that we are earning on the available balance. Again, that went up significantly because of the interest rates that, you know, those balances are earning. Expenses, again, this covers the cost of that policy through for our workers' comp, as well as the individual claims for a clinic visit for somebody who got injured or something on that line. Unemployment fund, when I first started here, we used to charge directly to the departments the cost of unemployment. So if we had layoffs in a department, they would be potentially significant claims against police or fire or any of the departments that had some layoffs. And so what I did is I implemented basically like a 3/4% with contribution for all funds. And in the first couple of years, we built up about $150,000 simply because we generally don't have that many layoffs. And probably since about 2015, we haven't had any further contributions into this fund. And we're basically utilizing that same balance that we generated like 10 years ago almost. And quite frankly, the last claim that we had for unemployment was all the way back in 2021, and the entire cost for our unemployment in that year was $1,500. Again, we just haven't had any layoff exposure here. Healthcare fund, this is the fund where the various costs associated with healthcare are billed out to the various departments based on the healthcare costs for their individual employees. Again, healthcare costs, unlike a lot of fringe benefits, are specific to the person. The healthcare that I may have could be very much more costly than, say, for instance, a single person or vice versa. So those costs can kind of bounce around from year to year. What we're also seeing, though, is back during the COVID days, because of reluctance of people to go to the doctors, we saw a very significant reduction in in our healthcare costs. And now, of course, that COVID is over, that shyness has gone away and people are utilizing their benefits at a greater level. So we've had some increases over the year. By the same token, we've managed those costs as well as we can. Again, the healthcare fund, we have a portion of a person from the HR department charged to this fund. But in total, we had about a 5% decrease. And part of that was over the last several years, we've had a fairly significant fund balance in the healthcare fund, so much so that it was really in excess of what we needed. So we went ahead and transferred out some of that excess to the various departments that contributed that number or that amount. In 24-25, we're expecting that number to no longer be there. We no longer have an excess fund balance in the fund. Again, very small portion of one person allocated to the healthcare fund.
Before we move on, I know in previous years we talked about the possibility of contracting with a practice for health costs. Is that something that was looked into, or is that something that we can't make work? Or where you contract, where you find a practice of multiple physicians and we contract, all employees are covered under that, and then there's an additional, I don't want to call it a rider, but I don't know the correct term in insurance terminology, for those emergency visits and urgent care visits, that type of thing, but to bring healthcare costs down.
We have not implemented that. I believe that at some point we looked at the county's clinic, and I'm not sure if that's still completely going, or I do know that there was a presentation by the county executive at one of the last State of the City, State of the County presentations, that they were very much trying to expand that, but no, there is not any type of arrangements between the city and another provider at this time.
Okay. If we could, I know that it's too late for this year at this point, but for future years, it would be something interesting to see what the cost breakdown looks like on that, if that's an option for future years. Commissioner Gerard?
Yes, I would concur. Just to take a look at maybe the county, now they have some historical numbers to see if they actually did see costs go down as a result of implementation of this kind of service. So it's worth taking a look at least.
The Child Care Advisory Committee was really interested in seeing if we could link up with the county's practice, and Executive Barsha did come in and really kind of wasn't too optimistic about being able to do it for child care providers, but we'll go ahead and pursue it.
Okay. Well, I mean, they would have historical data as far as what the counties, if they saw any kind of reduction in cost to their county services as a result of implementation. So it's worth taking a look at their historical numbers. Might not apply to the city, I don't know. Obviously, you have to have employees use it. I think there were some benefits and incentives for their employees to use those kind of services. So thank you.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there's like no copay and those types of things, so the employees benefit and the city benefits, since we're buying out so much of a block of a practice or the clinic. Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on, the Disability Insurance Fund. This is very similar to like the life insurance, health insurance, where all the different funds that have personnel costs contribute into it, and then out of this fund we actually pay the disability insurance premium. So revenues and expenses are generally equal, maybe a little bit of difference here and there, but generally same thing. Healthcare Savings Fund. This is the fund that replaced the old traditional retiree health care. And instead of the city basically providing like a Blue Cross policy for retirees, what the city now does is do a contribution of 6% of that of an individual's salary into a healthcare savings fund. This is much like a 401 in the sense that the employee can manage the investments in the fund, et cetera, et cetera. And again, all of the departments that have payroll, we basically contribute 6% of individual salaries into this fund, and then it's paid out. Currently, the provider is Mission Square, which is kind of a successor to the ICMA program. And this one has been increasing over the years in terms of the charges for services, simply because more and more people are in this plan versus the old retiree health care, because as the older people retire, the new people are in this plan. Again, this is about an $800,000 cost to the city. Police and fire retirement. This is the pension system specifically for the sworn employees for the police and fire departments. And in this case, we had about a 9% increase. And really what this is a combination of the contributions from the police and fire departments or public safety departments, as well as the investment earnings, interest, et cetera, et cetera. So we are projecting a larger investment revenue going forward because our balances are going up, plus we're doing fairly well on the investments. Total revenues, $8.1 million. And the fringe benefits, this is the actual pension payments that the city makes. And for 2025, we're projecting $6.7 million. And then the rest of it is really going into the fund as, contributions to the fund balance, as well as the fees and charges that we pay for our investment professionals. Kind of right on the line of the police and fire retirement system, we now have the Retiree Healthcare Trust, and that's very similar. This is the money that all the departments in the city are paying toward the old style retiree healthcare plan. The other portion up there is the actual contributions out of the various departments, but the interest and rents is what we are anticipating earning on what is in that plan. And that number has been increasing significantly over the last several years, simply because our balance is increasing. And then the charges for services, this really isn't an employee contribution into the Retiree Healthcare Trust, but it's their portion of, so like our retirees are responsible for 10% or 20% of their pension, of their health care, that's that number. But the other services, again, is the contributions into the plan as well as the investment expenses associated with it. There was also some questions about public safety personnel for the last 25 years. This is just a quick graphical representation. Last week I did hand out had a handout that had it much more detailed and a little bit easier to read. I didn't even try to put up numbers on this one just because they would be far too small to see on the screen. Again, fairly significant decreases in both the fire people as well as public safety. And before we get into questions, I do know that there were some questions that came up during last week's meeting, and I thought I would go ahead and address those. First off, there was a question about the reimbursement from UBP for the cost of the bridges, or the money that we pay toward the bridges. For 2025, we have budgeted for $450,000 reimbursement, and that came down quite a bit from last year. We've got budgeted in this year's budget $866,000, and again, that is as a result of UBP just basically paying more and more of the cost of the bridges right up front instead of it going through us. There was also some question about the raises in the community development department. The salary increase that was shown, first off, it wasn't just the community development director. There was another position in there as well. But it also had issues with, in 2024, the city did not budget or did not include in the budget a projected increase in the cost of the department heads. And so then in 25, we not only picked up the actuals, but then had the budget as well. So that's why it was showing a much larger budget than just 1 year's salary increase. Then there was also a question about the Midland Street Management
Mr.
Board.
Marti, I'm sorry, we have a question on that. Commissioner Burney?
Are you talking about the CDBG funding, about the administration, cost of administration fees that, the I think it's $250,000 that come off of the top for administration fees for like the computers and paper and things like that? Are you talking about that part?
No, this was more specifically in relation to a salary line item that had gone up about 7%, I believe, or some number close there.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivett?
My request was numbers for all non-represented. So you can provide those.
Sorry, that was just my glasses case.
Commissioner, I do have that spreadsheet for you. I have that.
Thank you.
And last question was the Midland Street Management Board cash balance at the end of, at the end of 23, fiscal year 23, there was $163,000 in cash, but there was also about a $20,000 payable in that account at the end of the year. And today there is about $140,000 sitting in that account. So I guess I will once again throw out any questions for the other funds, and if there are none, I will move into the utilities.
Commissioner Burney?
I wanted to ask about the funding for the homelessness and things like that. Do we have specific ones that we are using? Because what I see on the auditing the budget, I only see Salvation Army. Are there, because there's other organizations that are helping with homelessness and that sort of things for the people with substance abuse and those type of agencies. I see there's more, but I only see Salvation Army on the list for funding.
I would probably have to defer to the Community Development Director.
In regards to homeless funding, the funding that we have in the budget is, and I don't have it right in front of me, I want to say it's 33 or 36,000, 36,000 for Good Samaritan.
Is it only every year for Good Samaritan? Because I think it was last year, you had the Labadee Lofts, and at one point, they were gonna open up because they were part of the Good Samaritan. There was, I think it was $200,000 or $300,000 that was put into that. What I'm saying is Good Samaritan the only ones that money can be given to for shelters or whatever? Like I said, there's other organizations that we have dealt with in the past. I was talking to one today, so I was just wondering, this year, could that money not be given to Salvation Army, since we have, last year gave up $200,000 to them? Is there other agencies that we could help with that funding, because they're dealing with homelessness, substance abuse, community people also?
So Good Samaritan is the only organization that did put in for funding, so that's why we allocated it to Good Samaritan. The funding that did go into the Labadee Lofts project was home funding, not CDBG funding. It's a totally different funding source.
Have you ever heard of the Great Lakes Dream Center? 2022, they put in for funding, and we did give it to them. So just wondering, could we give, if there's any funding that we could help them with? They're helping with substance abuse and things like that right now. She's up on the roof asking for some funding to help her with that, for homelessness. And now they have those, they're doing a lot for substance abuse, and they have the Narcan accessibility stations. So with that being said, I feel that it would be proper to help with this sort of thing, with the drug abuse things that are going on right now. We helped them in the past. If we could squeeze some money over to them, because I know it's there, that would be awesome for the community. Thank you.
How's that? Oh. Anyone else from the commission have questions for Ms. Kiesel? I just do want to clarify for everybody, applying for grants, the organization does have to apply. So we can't just cut people a check, they have to apply. They applied in 2022. Okay, well, if we have an application, I'd like a copy of it, please, for everybody. But if we don't, I'd like an email that says we don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all we have. Thank you very much. If we want to start back up on part 3 of the budget.
Okay, as you said, this is part 3 and the final portion of the budget presentation. And this portion specifically deals with the electric, sewer, and water utilities. So relatively limited number of slides. So hopefully I can get through it fairly quick. Okay, first off, going into the electric utility. We're actually showing a small decrease in charges for services, and that was as a result of actually seeing a little bit of a change in the consumption rates in the residential specifically. So this number kind of reflects that from a conservative standpoint. Whether that's going to be the same case this year or not, we'll see. But interest in rents, again, the electric utility does have a fairly sizable cash balance, and with interest rates being what it is, we're seeing some additional revenues there. And other sources, this is a combination of contributions from companies that we're building for. That's actually went down this year, but then we're using more fund balance this year, so kind of a combination of the two. Expenses, personnel costs. There was a salary increase built into the projections, but most of the people in the electric utility, their contract will expire at the end of this year, so the raise is actually kind of unknown at this time. It's just an estimate. Fringe benefits went down, and this is primarily a reduction as a result of the retiree health care costs going down, as well as some costs associated with the DB retirement system. And operating supplies, this is the cost of the electric utility buying the electricity that they are selling to all of its customers, and that did reflect an increase in the cost. Other services, there was just general, there was a construction contractor that we didn't budget for this year that was part of the reduction there. And from a capital outlay, there was a very large cost for the Merson substation last year. That number is about half the amount this year, so again, that went way down. Debt service is almost the exact same thing. And the transfer out is the cost of a portion of a person assigned to the IT department for the AMI system.
Commissioner Gerard.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. I don't know if you, or maybe have the list of the capital outlay. Obviously, a lot of people's minds are the recent power outages. I guess, just curious, what's budgeted for this next year for capital outlay?
I do have a slide on capital outlay.
You do have one specific on what is
the end.
anticipated? Okay,
Oh, as
I'll
we
wait
get-
till then we go over that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivett.
Demand is down 3, cost is up 7, so there's a 10% increase in cost. But in the previous slide, you said demand was down 3%, I think.
We are,
Charges were down 3, cost, because you indicated that the charges were down 3% because there was less residential use, but we got cost of services up 7, so that's a 10-11% net change?
I don't know if they budgeted for on the cost side, whether they budgeted for that reduction. I think they were just being conservative on their revenue estimates. I would have to probably ask the electric director to come up if he wanted to. But there was a significant increase in the cost of electricity, just in general.
How's that? Okay. I'm sure there will be plenty of electric department discussion later as well. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the individual departments. The administration is things like uniforms, insurance, professional services, IT costs. The peaking plant, there was some capital outlay that had large capital outlay that had occurred the previous year that was not happening this year. And electric overhead, there was a very large capital project that happened last year. The project is still ongoing, but it's not anywhere near as much this year. And electric underground services, that increase was due to purchase of some transformers, which are pretty expensive these days. Service building, some personnel costs went down. Electric meter repairs, there is a metering tower. Again, that's part of the capital outlay that we'll talk about it in a subsequent slide. Street lighting, less annual replacement of street lights. And substation maintenance, again, this was in specifically the Merson project. It was a very large project that is ongoing, but last year it was $6 million. This year it's about $3.4 million. Power supply, again, that really gets into just the cost of buying power. System planning, that cost went down. And non-utility activities, this cost is reflective of the costs that we spend on tree trimming to keep the lines clear. And finally, energy optimization, just a small increase. Personnel, small decrease. And from a highlight standpoint, there is not a scheduled rate increase in the upcoming fiscal year. The electric utility is planning on conducting a rate study or an analysis during this upcoming fiscal year, and that study will determine whether a rate increase will be requested. And the electric utility is proposing to use about $6.4 million in fund balance during this upcoming fiscal year. Again, going on, expense side, purchase power is 51.5% of the total budget, and that is, again, an increase of 7.9% compared to last year. It reflects the general increased cost of the electricity. And as far as the capital improvements, we had a substation metering tower on 26th Street, $331,000. Substation construction for Merson, $3.2 million. Overhead and underground conductors, $606,000, and street lighting, $227,000.
Mr. Martini, before we got a few. Okay, I'll let others go first. Commissioner Hilliker.
I just have a quick question. So on the expenses, we have substation maintenance down 49%. Can we get a little bit more in depth as to why we're anticipating that to be decreased that much?
Again, the substation maintenance is specifically related to the large construction of the substation for Merson. Much of that cost was directly related to that. And last year, of course, it was about $6 million. This year, it's reducing to $3.3 million.
Thank you. Commissioner Gerard.
And I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, George, but so we did a pretty extensive capital outlay for Merson. Do we feel there's a recovery period then, or how's that work to recoup that on cost of purchase? Is that put in somewhere? Maybe, I don't know if you know or Mr. Webster knows.
There's actually we're going to get some reimbursement from Merson. I think I would probably rather the electric director kind of touch on that.
So as far as a reimbursement for the Merson Street substation, or Merson substation, what we've done is we've presented Merson's load data, or their anticipated load data for that substation to our rate analyst. What he did at that point is they calculated what our return on investment would be and how much we could contribute to it. We are contributing less than half to the actual construction, with the anticipation that we could make that up in a relatively short period of time. Any additional funds, in accordance with our rules and regs, we will negotiate with Merson. And what it does is whatever their balance ends up being, we take that and we divide it, I believe the term's 40 months, and they make monthly payments on that. So we will get some back in this particular year, the next year, and so forth until we hit that 40-month period.
Okay, so we don't anticipate residential ratepayers to subsidize that substation?
Absolutely not, no. And that is why we did the particular rate analyst, or had the rate analyst rather, look at those numbers so that it wasn't the ratepayers that were funding that construction.
Okay, that's helpful. And then maybe you can talk about because the 26th Street, I was at the substation today and looking it over, and I know you've talked about some of the things going on. I'm sure there'll be more discussion, but the 330,000, can you talk about that, what that is exactly?
Sure, absolutely. So that particular substation, the equipment in there is actually relatively, in utility world, relatively new. It has, some of the equipment is just 5 years old, other equipment's about 8 years old. One of the things that wasn't replaced at the time in the back corner of that substation is what we call the metering tower. It's actually the main feed that comes in from consumers that's there. It's the sub-transmission, or the 46,000. We've had some issues there with the fusing, and that is one of the things that we want to completely redo that structure. It's currently all wood. We want to go ahead and, you know, make that a nice sound steel structure. So hopefully it'll remedy some of those issues.
Is that part of this, or is that an additional budgetary item that would need to be done?
So that 331,000 right there, that is for that 26th Street stub and any other additional work that we want to do with inside there.
But for those main lines coming in that you're talking about, that will replace that with this funds, or do we need to
It won't
allocate more
replace the
money?
line. It will replace the structure that comes into it. The lines, we may replace some lines with that. It'll be very short sections, but Consumers actually owns the lines that come into the substation, and that would be on them to do replacements. From what we're talking to our engineer and stuff, there's no issues with the lines. It's just simply the age of some of the equipment that's there on the tower.
Okay, but is that, I guess I'm trying to get to, what needs to be replaced? Is there any additional funding that's needed, or are these gonna help, these funds allocated are gonna help reduce some of these potential issues, or is there more funding we need to look at to make sure that these issues are resolved?
So from a capital standpoint, this 331 will, in essence, almost give us, let's say, an 8-year-old substation, because some of the equipment's 8 years old. So it'll be a fairly new substation when this is all done. This is the final aspect to make the substation whole. Now, I will follow that up with, this seems to be where majority of our issues are coming from, is this structure. And that's why we're focusing this year. Keep in mind, this budget was developed in January. So we've been planning on you know, conducting this maintenance since then. If other things do come up, we would absolutely come back to the commission. We wouldn't wait until you know, next fiscal year, and we would do you know, a transfer from you know, any of our reserves in order to address that.
All right, yeah, because I think this body would be open to, we don't want our residents without power, and if there's things that we need to do, they pay a lot of money to have that accessible, so I wholeheartedly would support making sure that's done, so thank you.
And just to clarify, we've actually already started to order some of this equipment in anticipation that it will be approved. Obviously, if it isn't, we'll have to do a little bit of juggling, but we didn't, with the way lead times are right now, we wanted to make sure that we received the equipment in a timely manner to get the work done.
Okay, that's all the questions I have, thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple if you stay for just a second. So with Merson having that new substation, I realize that they are paying for it, but what does it look like for us to be able to piggyback off of that in case of an emergency? So, you know, a nice temperate day in April, not so much of an issue, but like the outage we had in February was pretty long. People were getting cold, those types of things. Is that something that's an option to us in the event of an emergency? So
unfortunately, the way that substation is designed, Merson will actually utilize near 100% of its capacity, as well as that substation and their existing substation that they have that feeds them.
Okay.
Because of their massive expansion that they're doing. And there's just simply not enough property in the area to be able to build, you know, additional circuits in there that we could, you know, utilize that for.
Okay. Just a rough estimate, but what would it take to add a redundant substation into the system so that if there is an outage or there is need to deconstruct another substation that we don't run into the problems that we've had? What is the cost on that?
So our Backus Street substation, that would be our newest substation. It's a little bit larger than we would likely need in this case. But with inflation and the way the numbers are starting to look, we're looking at probably $6 million.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure we'll have more later, but budget related, thank you. Anyone else before? No? Okay. Oh, Commissioner Rivet.
I just need a breakdown on the administrative costs sent to me. 6.7. Send it to me.
Okay, moving on to the sewer utility. The costs or the total revenues are down about 24%, and that is pretty much entirely associated with the ARPA funding that was given to the sewer utility specifically for the trickling filters. And the trickling filters, the construction is actually underway right now, and the assumption is that the construction will basically utilize all of the ARPA funding this current year, so there won't be any further ARPA funding into next year. But charges for services, there is a small rate decrease for sewer that will go into effect on February 1st. And interest and rents, again, interest rates are helpful in generating some cash there. Other sources is the use of fund balance for the trickling filters. They will utilize a significant portion to continue the construction. The entire project is a little over 11 million, of which 6 million is being provided by ARPA. So the remaining 5 is going to be coming out of the sewer funds. Personnel costs, again, fairly consistent, small increase. Fringe benefits, again, this is associated with retiree health care and some of the other fringe benefits that have gone down. Operating supplies, pretty consistent. The big thing is the capital outlay, $8.6 million. Most of this is related to the trickling filters. Or that was last year, but this year, $4 million, that's going to be the sewer portion of the trickling filters. Debt service, pretty much consistent, and the transfer out is, again, the small portion of an IT staff member supporting the AMI system. Departmental-wise, pretty consistent. Sewer maintenance and cleaning, there's some significant capital outlay, which I'll detail on a separate slide. I believe I've got one here for it. Yes. So sewer maintenance and cleaning, most of this is capital outlay. General administration, this is for the most part debt service as well as indirect cost. The sewer plant, again, increased cost there associated with the trickling filter construction. The sewer emergency generator, this is a new emergency generator. It's more sized as just an emergency generator. So again, our costs are significantly lower. And then of course, the American Rescue Plan Act, the $5,950,000 was the portion that was going to go for trickling filters, or is going for trickling filters this year, and there won't be any next year. Small increase in a GIS technician allocation, but basically staffing is consistent from previous years. And then the capital outlay, we've got $1 million for underground infrastructure improvements. I believe this is spray lining, or the lining of sewers instead of trying to replace them. And then McKinley, Johnson to Park, $705,000. Smith, Joseph to Patterson, $417,000. And then of course the trickling filters replacement. This is the portion that is again coming out of next year's budget that is not being paid for by ARPA. Water utility, moving on. Again, the 1.51% increase is associated with the rate increase that will go into effect on February 1st. Intergovernmental, this year we are finishing up a dwarf grant. There was about $2.7 million that the $684,000 was left over, and that will be the end of any dwarf program. Interest and rents, again, increased interest rates. Other revenue, this is associated with it's a reimbursement from the county that they're taking over the debt service associated with projects that were for water transmission lines, over 12-inch lines, I believe is the magic number. And then the transfer in, this is pretty much the ARPA dollars coming in to fund various lead line replacement functions. Personnel costs, again, fairly significant increase. That was
Mr. Martini, I'm sorry, Commissioner Gerard.
I just had a question. Once these funds are expended for lead line replacements, and maybe, I don't know if this is the, how many lead lines do we have left after that?
Unfortunately, a few. I think, yeah.
I asked partially because it has a major impact on budgets going forward too, correct? Is it?
So the question is, how many are we going to have left after ARPA is expended?
Yes.
Right now, at this point, we have just over 3,000 addresses yet to do. We are doing them at a clip at about just over 500 per year. I have till the end of 26. So we're looking at probably about another 2,000 to do yet.
And that's a mixture of crews. Do we have our own crew designated towards this through the ARPA funds, and then we are still contracting that out, correct?
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Are we going to have to seek out additional funding? I mean, I know there's grant dollars, dwarf, that we're looking at, funds that's forgivable, as I understand.
We're looking at all avenues possible without passing it on to our customers.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
I guess I will just add on that Mr. Jurish actually was the sole participant in a public hearing that looked at the dwarf proposal that the city will be submitting to the state of Michigan. I believe the total is about $35 million, with much of that being the lead line replacement. In terms of how much of that might be a loan versus a grant, it's anybody's guess. But again, as he said, we're looking at everything we can for somebody else to fund what is a fairly big number yet.
Thank you.
In addition to that, we also are participating in a pilot program through MML Foundation, and they are funding us with a small amount too to help us with our lead lines. So we are looking everywhere.
All right, perfect. Yeah, it's a major expense, and it's unfunded mandates to some degree, right, from the state. And so hopefully those other sources come in. Thank
Okay, moving on to expenses. Again, I think I mentioned personnel costs are up because we added a couple of ARPA bodies to help do those lead lines. Fringe benefits are actually down, even though we've got more personnel, and that's associated with the retiree health care, the contribution going down. And operating supplies is down. Last year we bought a whole bunch of supplies, or this year actually, we bought a whole bunch of supplies for like copper and joints and stuff like that to basically to help have the supplies on hand for the lead lines. Other services, that is basically our contracted services for lead line replacement. It's projected to be down next year. Debt service, again, these are debt payments on some of the dwarf loans. And transfers out, this of course is that IT person that supports the AMI program. As far as departmental, Utilities customer service, a little bit down compared to previous years. Water bonds are down a little bit. General administration, this really just is basically indirect costs as well as insurance and our bonds, or insurance and bonding costs. Water distribution, this was last year, it included the dwarf loan or dwarf grant proceeds that we were using for lead lines. Again, we're all done with the dwarf loans that we have currently outstanding. And the meter department, we purchased a fairly significant amount of meters because we started really the AMI program about 10 years ago, and some of those meters are starting to get kind of old. And then, of course, American Rescue Plan. This is the revenue coming in from the ARPA, and will continue to go out for lead line replacements. Personnel costs, again, we had additional ARPA positions for next year. And as far as capital improvements, we have a McKinley Road project from Johnson to Park, $465,000. Smith Street from Joseph to Patterson, $515,000. And then the e-meters, as I mentioned, we bought about $182,000 worth of new meters. And these will be a little bit more maintenance-free than our current versions. In terms of some of the budget highlights, water and sewer, the City Commission approved rate changes back in 2023, end of 22 maybe, for increases or changes effective February 1st of 2023, 24, and 25. Those rates increase the cost of water from $4.98 currently to $5.48 on February 1st, but at the same time, sewer will go down from $7.38 to $6.83. And an average customer, and we use a customer that uses 7 CCFs per month, the net impact with the increased water cost versus a decreased sewer cost will have a net impact of a 35-cent decrease in their combined water and sewer bill. So really, the rate increase is completely offset. One offsets the other. So really, February 1st, 2025, customers really should not see any impact in their bill or a very small decrease. And with that, I will.
Thank you. So sticking with water, if nobody else had anything on water, before we move on to all overall questions, is it water?
It's water.
Okay, Commissioner Gerard.
So what is the time frame? I can't remember. It's because we get notified from the Bay County Department of Water and Sewer and rate adjustments to what our wholesale rate we purchased from them.
We typically get notification in like November, and that increase would be effective January 1st.
It doesn't always match up with our budget set. We don't always exactly know what they're going to do, correct?
And the latest ordinance that we passed for the rating or for the rates basically said that in the future, any increase that occurs because of the cost of water going up will be automatically passed on to consumers without further action from the commission. Now, with that being said, I think last year the increase per CCF was, I think, 2 cents. So again, very negligible amount.
Okay, and I know most of the folks on this body weren't here when this happened. We negotiated with the county and formed that whole consortium, but there was negotiated a bulk rate purchase discount because of the stranded costs the city had for operating the water plant. There's a time frame that goes away of that purchase discount. Do we know when that is, so we have anticipation on
It's,
proper budgets?
it actually isn't a discount on the rate, or it's primarily what there is a reimbursement from the county for the costs associated with our defined benefit pension plan, as well as our retiree health care costs. And one of them expired this year, and the other one, I think retiree health care goes out till 2031. So,
Okay, so those will be coming off, and it doesn't go into perpetuity, so it'll impact rates going forward. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any others on water? No water, okay. I have a question. I noticed on water and sewer both, you have McKinley Street between Johnson and Park, but then in streets, we have McKinley Street between Madison and Johnson. I figure when you dig up sewer and water, you're digging up the road, that those two would be the same, but they're not. Could you elaborate on that?
looking for,
Somebody, I mean, I'm assuming we're digging up McKinley all the way then.
So, to the best of my knowledge, from Madison to Johnson is mainly going to be a mill and fill type situation, not a complete recon. All of my lead services have been taken care of there. I can't speak to the sewers, but I'm getting the nod that those are okay. From Johnson to Park, that's going to be a reconstruction, possible water main replacement. I've got lead services there, and I believe the sewer has some work to do also.
Okay, so this wouldn't be for you guys, this would be more for streets, but I don't remember seeing any money in the budget for McKinley between Johnson and Park in streets. That's the part that
I think that cost would be rolled into the recon.
that's rolled into the water and
I
the
believe
sewer
so.
parts. Got it, okay. That makes sense. If they're rolled into the water and sewer parts, then that makes sense. So all of Johnson Street. I'm sure everybody that has a child at Washington Elementary will be stoked.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Any questions in general? No questions in general? Okay, so I have one more, I guess, for going back to electric, because I forgot it the first time. The wholesale increase is 7.9% this year in electric. Years ago, I talked about net metering. I went down a rabbit hole on power auctions and how they work. Do we buy directly through the power auctions, or do we buy through an intermediary?
So whenever we purchase power, we actually go through MPPA. They assist us, and the reason we do that is because they look at purchasing in bulk for majority of the municipalities here in Michigan. So we get a better price based upon that. Some of it is on the open market, some of it is just day ahead, some of it's day of, depending on what load is. So we look at pretty much all the options. We do currently have some stake, and to talk about that increase, to add a little bit of color to it. It has gone up, and that number is not only what we purchase in energy. So Bay City, along with MPPA, has a minority stake in the Bell River and Camp Bell plants. Camp Bell is owned by Consumers Energy, Bell River is owned by DTE. There's been recent energy legislation that's passed, and it's making it less beneficial for them to do coal or to burn coal. And both of those plants are coal. Consumers Energy has decided to take their Camp Bell plant completely offline. So as a part of our agreement with consumers in our minority stake in it, we owe a portion of the decommissioning project to actually take that plant offline, remediate the site, and make it whole. So some of that 7.9% is for that. As far as the Bell River plant that's owned by DTE, they are also getting away from coal, again, because it's just not cost conducive to stay with the regulatory requirements that they have. But they are doing a transition from coal to natural gas. Also, as part owner of that, we also have responsibilities to pay for a portion of that transition from taking those engines from coal or burning coal as their fuel to natural gas. With a lot of that, we also see that we don't have the benefits by losing those plants because we were getting a really good price because we were a partial owner of it. So we need to make up those numbers someplace else, especially for the Campbell plant. With the Bell River plant, we will get some capacity. They're looking not to run them 24/7 like they do the Bell River plant now, but it's most likely going to be more like a peaker, which we have here that we run now, and only when energy prices get extremely high will they actually run.
Okay, so it's a past liability and changing rate structures so that there's a split rate for daytime versus nighttime, or going to net metering is not going to fix that because it's a liability that we're paying off.
Absolutely. Net metering will not fix that. And there is no daytime versus nighttime issue and stuff like that. It's usually just based upon the hour, and that hour is based upon what the rest of the MISO grid is doing. That's what actually dictates what the price is.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Seeing none, I think we're done, Mr. Martini. That sounds right. Thank you very much for everything. If you have additional questions, please feel free to email them, and we'll get answers before we actually approve a budget for the year. It's exciting. Next order of business is adoption of the agenda. Do any members of the commission wish to add any item to the agenda? Commissioner Hilliker?
I have a resolution regarding the 26th Street substation. Would you like me to read that now?
Yes, please. I know in the past we've read them at the end. I would like them to be read at the beginning so that people in the audience have an opportunity to make a comment on them at least. Thank you.
Great. So whereas Bay City Electric Light and Power has been experiencing issues regarding the 26th Street substation over the past few years at increased occurrences, causing power outages for residents. Whereas a power outage was experienced 1/1/2024, 5/3/2024, 5/20/2024, and 5/21/24 due to issues at the 26th Street substation. Whereas employees of Bay City Electric Light and Power work diligently to get power back to residents in a timely manner. However, the increased intervals are concerning to residents and the commission. Therefore, let it be resolved that Bay City Electric Light and Power, in partnership with the city manager, will create an action plan for improved services, particularly in response to issues regarding the identification and problem-solving needed around the 26th Street substation. Therefore, let it be resolved that updates regarding the 26th Street substation will be presented to the commission on a monthly basis as part of the regular scheduled commission meetings until all issues are resolved and action plans are created.
Okay, thank you. That will be on the regular agenda. Commissioner Burney? Could you use your microphone, please? Thank you.
All right, my resolution is about, it's for the city. The commission, you guys are all on the commission from this end all the way. You guys voted in and passed for the bridges.
Commissioner Burney,
So
could you read it?
Well, I'm just trying to, make you guys see that maybe we need to,
It's
you
okay.
guys need to,
Commissioner
think
Burney.
about passing this. So
Thank you.
anyways, I am requesting for the City of Bay City Commission to approve this resolution to have the representing attorneys contract agreements and all documents for United Bridge Partners and subsidiary Bay City Bridge Partners be reviewed for possible breaches of contracts by the attorney firm retained at the time of service. Whereas December 2019, the United Bridge Partners agreed to purchase the Independence and the Liberty Bridges for $5 million from the city. This purchase created a subsidiary called Bay City Bridge Partners. On December 16th, 2019, the commission approved and passed. Whereas in the month of April 2021, the City of Bay City Commission approved 2 modifications to its agreements with a private company that was preparing to take over and implement tolls. These tolls were to be set in place free until 2028 for Bay City residents. Whereas numerous citizens have been fraudulently charged on their credit cards, the community stressed over credit ratings, low-income families not being able to cross to get to work, schools, including the use of public transportation, have to be rerouted. In the contract agreement, it states persons below poverty levels. 25% of Bay City residents are considered at poverty levels by the United States Census. Don't have to pay? Why are we paying? This matter needs to be addressed. The public pay taxes and now tolling. Action is required immediately. Therefore, be it resolved, the city manager will have the attorneys review the agreement and contracts for possible breaches of contracts. Therefore, be it resolved that at all public meetings, all comments are put on the record. This is the job of the clerk. All comments are important. Minutes are a form of communication for citizens that cannot attend public meetings. MCL 168.200 Michigan legislation. Be it further resolved, this be approved on this day. Now, all of you commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner Burney. That will be on the agenda. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Commissioner Brenner?
Move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Hilliker?
Second.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the agenda as amended?
Commissioner Dockett?
Yes.
Rivet?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Hilliker?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
Clements?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Yes.
Next order of business is the consent agenda. Do any members of the commission wish to make a change to the consent agenda? Commissioner Rivet?
Item
I'm sorry, you cut out there.
Item 12,
Item 12, could you state which one it is, just in case?
the water planning.
Water planning. The dwarf loan for water planning? Okay. That will be on the regular agenda. Anyone else? Commissioner Gerard?
Yep. Reports of officers 5, and then resolution 14.
5. Can you state what
Resolution 5 is Cool City Car Show.
Cool City Car Show?
Yep. And then 14 is Commissioner Rivet's resolution asserting the right to approve or reject the master plan update.
All right. Reports of officers 5 and 14 will be on the regular agenda as well. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, next order of business calls for public input on the consent agenda. This is the opportunity for citizens to remove an item from consent for consideration on the regular agenda. If anyone in the audience wishes to make a change, please come to the microphone, sign the registration sheet, state your name and address for the record, and the item that you wish to have considered on the regular agenda. And I see some new faces in the crowd, so welcome. Thank you for being here. There is another opportunity for general public input. This is just for pulling items from the consent agenda, if you want to do that. I know there's sometimes a little confusion on new people for that. Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion on the consent agenda? Commissioner Brunner?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Commissioner Gerard?
Second?
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the consent agenda?
Commissioner Rivet?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Hilliker?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Morris?
Yes.
Docket?
Yes.
8 yes.
Next is remarks of mayor and commission. Do any members of the commission have anything that they would like to say? Commissioner Brunner?
Yes, thank you very much. Through the chair to the city manager. So summer is almost upon us. Actually, it's pretty much here. And the Kosciuszko/22nd/Lafayette Street Speedway has opened up for business. I personally have had quite a few people contact me in regards to fast traveling traffic through there. Is there any possible way we could, I know the speed sign was over there before. Is there any way we could have it moved back over there for a little bit?
Yes, the deputy director is shaking his head, yes.
Okay, perfect. And if any officers are in that area, if they could pay particular attention to that road, it actually is getting pretty bad. Another, on to the next item. So I had sent in an email, I believe about 2 weeks ago, in regards to the condition of 18th Street, which is also an emergency route for McLaren. Where were we at on that report from staff?
And let me check real quick. So we don't have that on our CIP list to do any major work on 18th Street, but the street department manager said that he's going to monitor the roadway and perform necessary maintenance.
Okay. Do we have any kind of a timeline, whether we're going to know if something needs to be done, or are we just, how does this work?
So when they put the CIP plan together, they look at obviously road conditions, sewer, and water under. So at this point, it's not on there, but we can talk to the engineer to see what year it'll fit in with the budgets. We can do that and get back with you.
If you would like me to send you a couple streets where it'll probably rattle your teeth out as you go by, that
sure.
might help.
Okay.
Because there are definitely a couple spots on there where if I was in an ambulance, I'd be a little nervous going that way.
Okay.
And
We'll take a look.
That's actually not, I'm not trying to make a joke here, that's actually kind of serious. Second part, my third item. I've been talking to a few business owners downtown, and they have expressed a situation of the homeless situation that we have downtown right now, and one of which being in Battery Park. What steps are we taking to try and remediate any of that, try and get folks to go to go to the homeless shelter, or do we have an action plan to try and help these folks?
So we have a group that's through the Community Foundation that has been meeting to address some of the needs and some things that we can do as a community. I do know that when our public safety officers come upon them, they try to move them along, encourage them, or even try to take them to the homeless shelter. Unfortunately, a lot of them don't want to go, or they're not allowed to be there. There's one of the two. We've talked about homeless with Department of Public Safety, and I think Rod can maybe update a little bit of what you're seeing and kind of what you're doing on your side of it.
Sorry. We are actively involved with this committee coalition, so to speak, to work on this situation in Bay City and Bay County. They're identifying different areas where potential housing can be done and whatnot, but it's a long process. So as the city manager stated, we're doing our best to make contact with folks when we're called and see what services we can get them.
What kind of advice can you give business owners downtown that are having these altercations in order for them to handle things properly and legally?
The first step is if they feel safe enough to do so, is just to ask the person to move or to leave. If they refuse to do so, then just call 911, allow our officers to come and handle the situation. We've got a lot more tools that we can use as far as services and different methods to get them to leave.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And also, my fourth item that I have this evening, and this is not going to come to as a shock to very many people. Obviously, we've spoke about it partially already this evening, the power outage in the south end. And my point that I wanted to discuss this evening was communication. When I came on the city commission back in 2015, we got emails quite often, whether they were for power outages, water main breaks, even if they were flushing fire hydrants in certain areas of the city, we were getting emails. And now it seems that we get less and less, and now almost none when it comes to status. And I know sometimes we post things on Facebook, or it's supposed to come across by alerts. It's not. When residents start calling me like yesterday, my phone started going crazy. I'm not going to go to Facebook and try and find an update. I shouldn't have to. No commissioner should have to. We should be getting emails as to what is going on in the city for our residents, so that when we get phone calls or emails, we can handle that right away. I don't feel that, I don't sit at a desk anymore, and I don't have time to figure out which group on Facebook I need to go to try and find an update. I think that we as a city need to start communicating better when there are issues, because it's when I have to say, let me get back with you, and something's been going on for an hour and I didn't even know about it because I never heard anything about it, I feel a little embarrassed that I can't give a resident an update. I had a resident contact me yesterday that his wife was on an oxygen tent and the battery backup was almost off, and they were praying that the power was going to come back on soon. We need a better level of communication for this. We are not doing ourselves any favors by being silent about things. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Burney.
I'm still on this bridge thing. The reason why I'm so adamant about wanting everyone to be aware of, it's like fix it. And I wasn't here when the bridge was voted in. And I'm a strong believer, if I have done something and it's not right, at least I want to come back and fix it. Or at least I want to say, hey, I messed up and let's try to make this right. But I'm seeing everyone that voted it in, from this end all the way over, all of you guys, and I've yet to see one of you really look like you really, really care and want to tell the community, I'm sorry, let's try to work this out. I'm not understanding the way, I'm looking at my colleagues, and I'm not just seeing this. So please just change it up and start helping the people and put your mind to the people. You know what's right. You know what you guys did. You did it. Fix it.
All set? Thank you. Commissioner Gerard.
I have a question. There's a little piece of sidewalk next to Liberty Bridge. I don't know who's responsible for that. They started working on some of that concrete work, and then there's it's right down by the waterfront. As you look down, and there's some runners that were going to run down there. They run there regularly, and it's like missing patch. Like it went around a tree.
On this side?
It would be on the south side of Liberty Bridge.
Okay.
So I don't know what time frame that is, or whose responsibility it is to finish fixing that, or it's just you run up to it and there's a big section of just dirt.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
I'll wait till we get to Commissioner Hilliker's resolution about the electric issues. I do have I get asked a lot because there's businesses that have been shut down and impacted, and some folks have had a lot of loss or food over when we had power outages. They feel they've lost food. What is the process that, I know some people have filed appeals with the city to be reimbursed. I don't know what that process is, or we would direct them to file a claim under their own insurance.
There's a couple different things. So they file a notice of claim with the city, and that form is online, or if they call the manager's office, we can send it to them. We have them in our office. I think there's some in the clerk's office as well that they can stop and pick up. In the meantime, then we'll turn it into our insurance company. In the meantime, our insurance company does request that people start like the homeowners process as well, to start that with their own insurance company.
Have we ever paid out claims?
If it's an act of God, mostly what power outages fall under, we don't pay out most of those. If it's our fault for some type of what falls under the exclusions in our insurance policy, then they will pay.
Okay. Next thing, so the beginning, and I know we've been working on budgets, right? So we started the process of having goals. Is that going to come back around at some point here?
Coming right back the same night that you're adopting your budget, because those goals will coincide with your budget.
Okay, perfect. That's all I have. I'll wait for the electric issues when we discuss it, probably shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hilliker.
First and foremost, I want to say I apologize to any resident who did try to get a hold of me yesterday about midday during the outage. My phone did die, and I was unable to charge it due to the outage because I lived in the area affected as well, so I do apologize for that. And then I got to some of you guys today before the second outage happened and started feeling calls for that one. So again, I do apologize if you did not receive a phone call back from me today because I was fielding other phone calls from the second outage. But I also want to bring a point up. I've been getting a lot of complaints regarding Fremont Street needing to be repaired or looked at. So if we could just get some assessments over there to see what that road looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none. You guys covered most everything I wanted to talk about, so I appreciate that. I did want to piggyback on Commissioner Brunner's comment. I definitely I'm not looking to know every little thing that happens in City Hall, but it would have been nice to have known about the 26th Street substation being torn apart so that it could be fixed in the long term. It would have been very helpful for us when we started getting those calls to be able to let residents know, hey, this is what's going on, and we probably should have communicated that out to the community as a whole as well, so that, I don't want to say that it's not a surprise, but I think people would be a little bit more understanding if it was like, hey, we're doing this big fix, and it may cause hiccups while we do it, but then it will be fixed and it'll be good. So communication is also huge there. The other thing that I've been seeing a lot of lately, and I know the DNR was looking at this recently as well, there are, I don't even want to call them electric bicycles, they are electric motorcycles, electric mopeds. They have no pedals, they have a throttle, they do about 30 miles an hour. I am seeing them on the sidewalks, I'm seeing them on the rail trail. They belong on the road. It's super dangerous, and I understand they're lightweight, they're smaller, but the speed is dangerous. And I would hate to see the day where one of these, loses control and they hit a pedestrian, because now you've introduced a motorized vehicle that is traveling at a relatively high speed and a pedestrian, which is problematic. They're doing the same speeds as mopeds. I think they belong kind of in the same place as mopeds. I know that the state is looking at some restrictions on that front for people with disabilities, to make exceptions for them. I understand that. And I understand like the pedal assisted ones that are relatively slow, but the ones that are basically motorcycles, if we could make sure that those stay on the street, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Next item, if nobody has anything else, is the manager's report. Does the manager wish to make any remarks?
I do. I have a couple things tonight. Just an update that the speed table was installed on Water Street. It was installed on May 10th, so a little bit ahead of schedule. We have gotten comments back from the business owners down there thanking us for putting it in, that it is working. So that's good news. Our Dump Your Junk event that took place last week, we have some stats on it. We had about 55 vehicles that dropped off debris, about 20 ton, 440,000 pounds of debris was collected in our trash trucks, and we filled one 40-yard dumpster with loose debris. Most of those items were like large items and furniture that we were able to compact into our trash trucks. So I think we are planning on having another one maybe in the fall. 7th Ward, I just want to update for the 7th Ward packets. They are available in our office for the vacancy in the 7th Ward. They're due June 14th. And we have a couple exciting projects going on here at City Hall. All are construction related. We have a clock tower update. Right now our clock tower is going to be closed for about 2 to 3 months. We're doing some flooring, some plaster repair, drywall, and paint. And then in my office, in the city manager's office, we are updating our door to install a small counter. In removing the door there, they're redoing our door, so there's going to be a counter attached to that for the public. And then we are also working on the back stairwells, so the south and the north stairwells, we're replacing the treads and the landings. There's like some hazards there when people are going down, so we're going to install some toe plates and some handrails. And that's all I have.
All right. Next order of business calls for public input. Under the rules of the City Commission, each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Commissioner Clements will serve as the timekeeper. This is the opportunity for citizens to address the Commission regarding any agenda item or any other matter. If anyone wishes to address the Commission, please come forward, sign the registration sheet, and state your name and address for the record. Just a quick reminder from the clerk as well for everybody, if you could print clearly. I guess some people are kind of squiggling a little bit more than she's capable of deciphering. No doctor's signatures.
Richard Luzak, 1707 Fremont. I'm here today to talk about the Freedom of Information law. I believe it's very archaic. It's 20th century. It's not 21st century. I think that the implementation of FOIA is upside down. The most important thing I'd like to impress upon you is that data and information does not belong to city officials and elected officials or appointed officials. It belongs to the people. The second point I would like to make is that we have paid for it already, for that information to be assembled. And I resent the fact that we may be charged for a FOIA, to process a FOIA request. The solution to this I would like to propose is that any information that the city possesses, except that which is exempted by the FOIA Act itself, like labor negotiation and things like that, or sensitive police information, that everything else be posted on the website. If you look at the discussion tonight, and you look at the questions that were asked of the financial officer, could you imagine how unwieldy that would be for me to have to fill out a FOIA request for every one of those questions? You can have a city representative come up here and answer your questions, but if I wanted those complicated questions answered, I'd be filling out FOIA requests, and it would just be unwieldy. I've been retired for over 20 years, and I've seen a lot of problems in this city. And a lot of problems in this city result from a lack of communication and information, which you even heard tonight about information status updates on the electrical outage. But there's all kinds of issues that the public really deserves to know and understand so that they can hold elected officials accountable for what's going on in the city. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things like contracts with the city, policies of the city. If any department has policies, whether they're internal policies or external policies, those should be on the website so that people can see what's going on. Take a look at the outages. What is the record of outages in all the areas served by Bay City Light and Power? Take a look at house fires, an investigation of causes. We never hear what the cause of fires were and what measures people should take to protect their own property. You talked tonight about action plans. Yes, I would like to know. I think you should have a database of lessons learned as well as action plans. And another item that I think the public would be interested in is inspections of city infrastructure, which was also referred to tonight. A lot of these things are things that the public would be interested in, and they should not be these things should not be tucked away in file cabinets. The public, as I say, owns that information, and that information should be posted on the website. There's lots of things, crime statistics, locations, and then zeroing in. Well, let's see. There's another item is like on a day-to-day basis, what kind of problems do managers run into, the department heads and so forth? What kind of worker grievances are there in the city? Is that protected by FOIA? I don't know, but I'd like to know what worker grievances are and how they're being resolved and what the performance of city personnel is. And then last, of course, I'd like to focus on the outage in the southeast end of town. Or you could take a look at the financial report. There was a lot of data there, but there wasn't information. You had to ask multiple questions to pull out the information. What does this mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? We don't need to be snowed just with data. We need information. What does that mean? Why is this going down? Why is that going up? The questions were right from you folks, and those are the same questions that everybody else in town has. I think you should seriously consider going beyond the minimum requirements of the Freedom of Information Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others?
Alex Stewart, 1309 South Erie. I want to start with something that has been a revelation in this meeting tonight, that people are starting, including the commissioners, asking questions I've been asking for almost a decade now about communication. If you guys are lacking communication, it's always a matter of look up a level, see where the blockage is, and keep looking up levels until you find the blockages. The fact that our commissioners can't get information on power outages in a timely manner when they're being called, emailed, possibly texted, who knows, Facebook messages, all the fun stuff, not getting information, is getting, on my side, seems like it's getting out of hand. As for the power outages themselves, while I technically live on the side of the river that hasn't been affected, a lot of people I know live in that area. We heard a story tonight from a commissioner about someone who was near the end of their battery life for an oxygen machine. I know someone, and they've also talked to our commissioner, who has lost thousands of dollars of food and appliances due to these outages recently. There's talk of an action plan that is in a resolution from a different commissioner tonight, but these people need help as quickly as possible, especially in part of my ward that is in need of some upgrades. They, like the one house that I know my commissioner has talked to them, they run a system that can't handle any issues with the electrical. Now me, I'm not an electrician. I'm not speaking on behalf of the electrical workers. I am so bad I almost burned down Delta College making a 14-gauge extension cord in Boy Scouts. So don't try to recruit me to do that, but something needs to happen on the administrative side to show that you're being more accountable to the people. The trust in the public power in this town was faulty with some people before, and I think this past few months has really put a dent in the reputation. We've had overall rates of stability higher than consumers in our region for years now. And even if we manage to squeak out a win again this year, no one's going to believe it because of the same area being affected over and over and over. Something else I want to bring up was mentioned by the previous speaker about things that should be posted online and FOIA blockages. Last year, when I requested information on the budget process, I was given information that I requested, specifically the transfers in and out, matching, and some account level information. This year, I put that request in the email I sent all the commissioners like I have for the past 5 years doing that, and I did not get that information. And I am not paying for that because I know the 1 year I asked for the budget stuff and I was told it was about $100. The packet that's put online isn't even the same packet given to the commissioners. There are differences to it. The 1 year I went and asked, and I think it was current commission president who came up and asked me about it, and he's like, well, those numbers don't match, like the page numbers don't match. Well, it's because you guys did get a different packet. That's not right. I try to make it easier to read. I try to make it easier for people to ask questions. And there's always communication. It's small things, but they add up. And now with the power thing, people aren't trusting the power department either. And it just needs to be, again, better communicated, better help, some form of assistance needed for those people. Like their amount of downtime in that area is going to be so far off. I know the city can look up each meter and track it. Those e-meters, they're allowed to look at on and off and usage on those meters to try to detect issues. They'll be able to tell how much or which houses were affected the worst by the outages. Maybe the people who were affected the worst need some assistance or some compensation for their loss of power and loss of security of living in their house. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeWitt, if you'd be so kind as to stick around after the meeting for just a second. Thank you.
Terry Veligan, 300 Center Avenue, Bay City Bridge Partners. Since our last meeting, we have put in several customer service enhancements, including call center, added staff, on-hold messaging, and a callback feature. Our really go-to recommendation for those with questions or concerns to have us visit in person at 300 Center Avenue. Our local CSRs are having really great success when we have customers come in, and they have the opportunity to educate our customers about all electronic tolling and their account management. Here's an update on top requests we are addressing. 1, converting pay-by-mail invoices to Bay City accounts for non-residents. Drivers who use Liberty Bridge without a BC pass and received a pay-by-mail invoice are offered the opportunity to convert to a BC pass account, and in return, we are reducing the tolls to the discounted BC pass rate for each vehicle class. Converting pay-by-mail invoices to BC pass accounts for residents. City of Bay City residents who did not open a BC pass account prior to using the Liberty Bridge are offered the opportunity to open a BC pass account, and all the pay-by-mail transactions are dismissed or reduced to the Class 2 surcharge. Number 3, making adjustments on defaulted BC Pass accounts for non-residents. Customers who establish a BC Pass account but fail to properly fund the account or pay their tolls according to the terms and conditions are being provided a courtesy adjustment to those tolls back to the original discounted BC Pass rate by vehicle class. The expectation is that customers keep their account funded with a valid payment method on file to avoid defaulting in the future. 4, making adjustments on defaulted BC Pass accounts for residents. We are seeing City of Bay City residents' accounts where a transponder was never installed according to the terms and conditions. This resulted in tolls not being discounted. To receive the BC Pass discount, you must have a properly installed transponder. We are adjusting these tolls on these accounts, issuing a new transponder if needed, and educating the customer on ensuring that each eligible vehicle on their account has a properly installed transponder. In the spirit of partnership, we are waiving and/or reducing lots of fees. We are working with each customer individually to ensure their specific needs, concerns are resolved, and using each interaction as an opportunity to educate them about reviewing their account periodically and answering any questions on how all electronic tolling works. Now, I know you have struggles. We all have struggles. This has been challenging. You've been challenged with this for 30 years. This struggle is only temporary, and I understand the challenge that we're facing. I'm here. I've provided my phone number to each and every commissioner, to the mayor, to the city manager. We are here in the spirit of transparency. We are here in the spirit of question and answer. We are making ourselves available to educate the public, to educate the commissioners, to educate the administration, to educate the public, and provide the opportunity to get those questions answered with the spirit of educating how electronic tolling works. Bay City still has 4 bridges. We were brought in to survive 2 of the bridges. We have done that. And I'm not saying that, do we have challenges? Yes, we do. But in the spirit of open and transparency, we're here to answer questions and help anybody that needs questions or has issues with their account or issues with understanding the tolling. We'll get through this introduction to tolling, and Bay City will have the quality infrastructure it deserves. So thank you for your time. And again, as ever, if anybody has any questions, any concerns, please come see us at the walk-in center or contact me personally. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any others?
Good evening. My name is Douglas Rise, 1728 Green Avenue. I am the current Vice President of the Bay City Planning Commission, and I'm offering my comments tonight in my individual role as a commissioner. I would like to read into the record the entire text of Section 43, Subsection 3, and Subsection 4 from the Michigan Enabling Act. Approval of the proposed master plan by the Planning Commission under Subsection 2 is the final step for adoption of the master plan unless the legislative body, by resolution, has asserted the right to approve or reject the master plan. In that case, after approval, the proposed master plan by the Planning Commission, the legislative body, old eyes, the legislative body shall approve or reject the proposed master plan. A statement recording the legislative body's approval of the master plan, signed by the clerk of the legislative body, shall be included on the inside cover, front or back cover of the master plan. And if the future land use map is a separate document from the text of the master plan, on the future land use map. Subsection 4. If the legislative body rejects the proposed master plan, the legislative body shall submit to the Planning Commission a statement of the objection to the proposed master plan. The Planning Commission shall consider the legislative body's objections and revise the proposed master plan so as to address those objections. The procedures provided in subsection 1 to 3 and this subsection shall be repeated until the legislative body approves the proposed master plan. From my perspective as a commissioner on the Planning Commission, we would really like to see a collaborative effort between the City Commission and the Planning Commission in our deliberations, whether it's the master plan or any of our monthly meetings. Since I've been on the Planning Commission, we've not had any liaison member attend one of our meetings. And I think it's not fair to want to then act on what we've done, what we've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort doing when there's been no one there to offer insight from the commission. I would encourage that the commission does send representatives to our meetings. We would love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others?
James Priest, 1403 South Monroe. I'd like to thank the 5th Ward for the Commissioner for thinking we need to get something fixed on our electric, considering it's always going out for many, many, many years, ever since I've lived in that side. They don't ever seem to get it right. And Commissioner Berner, you had that, you're wondering why you don't get texts and stuff like that saying what's happening. And the only thing I can think of is because all your supervisors in Bay City, all your management, all live outside of Bay City. They have no clue what's going on. They have to count on somebody to call them up and say, hey, we have a problem. What do you think? So that takes care of you, because they don't care. And let's see, I got a couple of questions for the city manager. Skate park, whatever happened to that? It was such a big deal when nobody wanted it, and still it sits there. I don't ever see anybody skating though. Over here in Winona, wasn't there supposed to be an ice rink?
I do want to clarify, sir, this is a one-way communication, not a bi-directional. It's not an opportunity for back and forth. It's just one direction from you to us.
Oh, you can't answer the question.
Thank you. If you want to stick around afterwards, we're more than happy to talk to you.
All right. So farmers market over here in Columbus, that would have to be after too. Okay, grass cutting down the park. Okay, how about police department?
Same thing. All questions, we're happy to answer them after the meeting.
Who do I talk to? You?
Come right up here, yep.
Come up here, okay. More than happy to, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others?
My name is Kimberly Marisi. I live on 1601 South Monroe. I am extremely nervous, so sorry. But last night, when I was laying in bed, or yesterday evening without power, I was thinking about a movie that I saw, and I was thinking about this line in this movie. And it goes like this. Either they don't know, they don't show or they don't care what happens in the hood. And in that instance, I'm referring to all of our neighborhoods. From the perspective of the people who live here, it really feels like, one, some people don't know, and don't know what happens in our neighborhoods. And you kind of said, like, sure, you don't know because you're not getting notified. It was brought up before that some people don't even live here, so how could you possibly know when things happen? Well, because of the lack of the communication there, but so don't know, don't show. So as far as don't show goes, your residents are not happy because they don't feel like you're showing anything positive for us. I can look on my sidewalk and on the roads, and I see just like deteriorated sidewalks. You can't go for a walk without tripping. We moved here probably, I think it was a couple years ago, and we would walk our dogs. I was really pumped because like there's the bike trail right near where we live, and my fiance tripped really hard on the sidewalks because they're incredibly uneven, like everywhere. This is something that we all know. Everybody here, I think, probably knows that, but nothing is ever done about it. I don't know because I'm not, whatever, but what exactly it is that can be done, where budgeting can happen for that sort of thing. Like a lot of folks online, you can see it very clearly. They're very upset about like, oh, well, so much attention's being brought to downtown. What about everybody else that actually lives here and everybody's normal communities that aren't Main Street or whatever it is? And as far as not caring, it does feel like not all of you, and I'm so sorry to like make this sound as negative as it sounds, but it truly does feel from the residents that you do not care. I don't really know what else to say. I'm really bummed. Yesterday was kind of like the icing on the cake for a lot of the issues that I think a lot of people are experiencing. Yeah, just bummed, not happy. I think a lot of people aren't happy, and that's really it.
Thank you. Excuse me, thank you. Are there any others?
Hi, Jennifer Streeter, 1207 26th Street. I don't have a lot to say. A lot of people have already covered everything as far as the electrical outage yesterday. I do feel like it was 6 times this year, not 4. However, it's been a constant issue at the 26th Street substation, and communication has been extremely lacking. We couldn't get through yesterday, and then once we finally did get through, there's no ETA. I called at 8 p.m. and finally got to talk to somebody and was told they don't know what the problem is, there's no ETA still. I think communication needs to be really addressed. We need to know what the problem is and what an ETA is, even if it's inaccurate and you have to update it later. Sitting around in the dark with absolutely no information, everybody's complaining on Facebook, nobody knows when we're gonna get power back. There's people with issues with oxygen, there's people with newborns and dogs and older people overheating, and we had no information. So I'm not going to say anything more about the electrical outage because everybody covered it. I do want to piggyback on the toll bridge comment. I wasn't expecting to talk about that, but I do appreciate Commissioner Burney talking about reviewing the contract. I know he spoke and said that they are working with residents. He completely missed the fact that whether you have the bridge pass in your city resident or not, they're reading the license plates and sending bills to people who haven't even crossed the bridge because they're mixing up, I think, O's and zeros, or something's going on where the picture doesn't match people's vehicles. They're not the ones who crossed the bridge, or they've got the toll bridge pass, and they're still receiving a bill because they read the license plate instead of the bridge pass. I don't know what you guys can do to address that, but it does need to be addressed. I know they say we can come inside, we can talk to people, people work. We don't all have time to go down there every time we receive a bill that's inaccurate. There was one more thing I was gonna touch base on and I forgot. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others?
Good evening. My name is William Manley, 1601 South Monroe Street. I would like to thank the council for having us here today and giving us the opportunity to speak and expressing our concerns with the community. I think everybody's already addressed a large portion of these issues. I would just recommend and ask the city manager to work with the Bay City Power and Light Company to create a comprehensive report detailing exactly what the failures were for the last 2 years and exactly what they're going to do in the future to avoid further outages, not only for the south end, but for all the customers for Bay City Power and Light. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, go ahead.
Jeff Reed, 409 Fillmore. This is regarding Bay City Bridge Partners. I'm going to share a little story with you. I call it the cookie story, and I find it disgusting. It was about a month ago. I was out in front of their building with a protest sign, and they sent one of their business associates, we'll call them, out to confront me. This individual brought out a little paper plate. That particular day we had 20-mile-an-hour sustained winds, but I was out there. They brought a little paper plate out with 3 cookies, a little bottle of water, a napkin, and a little breath mint. And when the person approached me, they said, "Sir, we brought you some cookies from the Bay City Bridge Partners." I said, "I am not interested in your cookies." I said, "Why don't you take those cookies to those 2 women that are sitting on the bench across the street, which appeared to me to be homeless?" They responded to me, "No, these cookies are for you." They set them right on that pier, how we have those posts at the corners. They set that plate of cookies there. And if I wouldn't have went like that, that wind would have blew that garbage through our city. So that just shows me they don't give a shit about our city or about our citizens. With saving those, I couldn't believe what just happened. I took that plate of cookies myself over to those 2 women sitting on that bench, and I asked them, "Ma'am, these cookies were given me by the Bay City Bridge Partners. Would you like to have them?" And they were very thankful to get those cookies. I turned around, I went back to my post and continued to protest the Bay City Bridge Partners. These people are not our friends. They're here, it's just going to destroy our city. We already got a bad look from all the surrounding communities because of these bridges. And if they did violate the contract with the city of Bay City, we need to get on it, pull the contract, and kick them out of town.
Thank you. Are there any others? Okay. Seeing none for real? Seeing none. Okay. Next order of business is regular agenda. I believe we have, 5 items? 5 items? Could I talk you guys into like a 5-minute recess again? It's been 2.5 hours. Just go. All right. We're just going. Okay. Will clerk please call the next item?
Reports of officers number 5, Greg Kimbrew of the Cool City Car Show requesting permission to hold the Cool City Car Show July 12th to the 14th, 2024, using Midland Street from Vermont Street to Walnut Street, and Vermont from Midland Street to Henry Street, and all side streets a block each way of Midland Street, keeping Henry Street open to traffic. Recommendation approved.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Commissioner Gerard?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Brenner?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Gerard.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think it's nice to showcase different sides of our city, so appreciative of the group to take it and move it to the other side. The only thing, I just want to make sure, I know last year there was some concern, there's parts of that district that weren't properly weeded or whatnot. I don't know if we want to make sure that during that time frame that part of Midland Street, there was some sections that were problematic that I got some feedback on. We had a bunch of folks, the Friday night show or the drive, you would end up on Midland Street. There were just some sections, just so we make sure we're working with that group to make sure that that area's cleaned up and ready for that. But overall, I think it's a great event, so very supportive of it.
They just took with the day of caring, they cleaned up Midland Street. That whole group did down there.
Oh, perfect. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else regarding Cool City Car Show? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Burney?
Yes.
Brenner?
Yes.
Hilliker?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
Clements?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Dockett?
Yes.
Rivet?
Yes.
8 yes.
Will the clerk please call the next item?
Resolution 12, Commission as a whole resolution adopting the 2025 dwarf planning document. Recommendation approved.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion on dwarf loan. Commissioner Clements?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Hilliker?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Commissioner Rivet?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's the culture that's concerning. And I'm reasonably confident that the material presented by OHM isn't bad. But what is bad is that this is due on June 1st. And we had a public meeting on this afternoon. So we know that the resolution was drafted, everything was done, and if someone would have came in and actually made a comment, and I understand, let me say I understand. I've run water and sewer systems that most people don't care about these so-called plans and blah, 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 but the culture is the problem. We don't respect our citizens enough to give us an actual month to look at something like this. I can't believe, we haven't learned from the train wreck that was last year's police contract, that we should have at least a month before the deadline so that we don't have to create a situation where the commission is forced to adopt something whether or not we like it or even seen it. It's an issue of respect of the citizens in this body. And we're hearing a lot about disrespect tonight. It's a culture issue that we have at City Hall. I don't know what it's going to take to get staff to understand that the people's desires and wishes and opportunities to comment are critical enough that we actually, give them a week or 2 weeks to actually make a comment, whether or not they make it or not. So my objection is, when are we going to start holding management, administration accountable for doing this stuff? For sending us stuff that has to be approved by June 1st, for having a public meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon where no one's going to come, having the resolution already drafted because we don't have a choice. We need a culture change where we respect the citizens, respect this body, and we start to move in a way that gives the people some voice. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there any others? Okay. Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Brenner?
Yes.
Hilliker?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
Clements?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Dockett?
Yes.
Rivet?
No.
Burney?
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Motion is adopted. Will the clerk read the next item, please?
Resolution 14, Commissioner Rivet's resolution asserting the right to approve or reject the master plan update recommended by the Planning Commission as allowed under MCL 125.343. Recommendation approved.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Commissioner Rivet? Is there a second? Commissioner Burney? Could you guys speak into the microphones, though, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Could you second it, Commissioner?
Oh, second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, Commissioner Gerard?
Just real quick, is the intent just for final approval, or is it the thought that the commission would help assist with the master plan going forward and hearing a review of the process of the work, or is it just the final approval is what we're going for? Just for clarification.
I have great respect for Commissioner Rise, and my guess is for the rest of the Planning Commission. You know, I'm going to start sounding like a broken record, right? This is about culture. We were told at a commission meeting that we had no ability to approve the master plan. So I reviewed the statute, right? Because we were given bad information by the manager, by the administration. And when I found that, and you know, let's just talk about the rest of the story. Communication was given to the commission officers, but not to the rest of us, which is why there's another communication resolution. I just guess I'm going to recommend that we're going to have to do resolutions about everything. Because we were given bad information, I reviewed the statute. And when I reviewed the statute, I determined that, wait a second, we do have that right, right? And I think there's some validity to that because we're the elected body. I don't anticipate us having significant input. I will say that the master plan I read from 2017 was probably 60% longer than it needed to be based on what I reviewed in the statute. And if we want to use that for a marketing piece and we want to, you know, actually follow it, I'm all for it. We're not, but I'm all for it. But my issue is we have to have a change so that we as a body are given correct information. We have the final say in the work that gets done here, and that we have the ability to influence what goes on. Because if I was a member of this body in 2016 or 17, 18, whenever that was approved, I would have paid very close attention to whatever we paid that consultant because we had 60% more than we needed in that plan. And we would have paid for that. And so if we really want to do our jobs to ensure that we are efficiently serving the people, and we would have outlined what our intent and goals were with that master plan, I would have been more comfortable. We're doing it in-house, so it's not going to cost us anything. For that, I'm fine. But what I do think needs to happen is we as a commission need to be far more involved, electricity or this issue, and dictate a culture change in city administration and city government. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, that was 60% more. Yes, so it was the answer. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on it? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hilliker?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
Clements?
No.
Morris?
Yes.
Dockett?
Yes.
Rivet?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yes.
Brunner?
No.
6 yes, 2 no.
All right. Will the clerk please call the next item? I'm sorry, that motion was adopted. Will the clerk please call the next item?
The next item is Commissioner Hilliker's resolution.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Commissioner Hilliker?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Morris?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Hilliker?
Thank you. It was brought to my attention that I do have the wrong dates in there. Originally I read it as 5/20. Please mark that's 5/19. And I have 5/21. Please mark that as 5/20. I'll reflect that in the final one that gets sent.
Okay. Do we need an amendment for that? Clerical error. Okay, cool. Any other discussion? Commissioner Gerard.
Yes, thank you. I don't know if Mr. Webster could come up so we can have some discussion about this. I know he penned and submitted an apology letter, and I'd like to just have some discussion about what's in that, the context of it, what the plans are, and then moving forward, how do we address some of these issues? So that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, so as you had mentioned, and for the residents that are not necessarily aware, there's copies of that open apology letter in the hallway here. It can also be viewed online by visiting www.baycitymi.org. open letter. In that letter, myself and my staff, we take full ownership of the issue the issues that are present. We definitely are not proud of it. We know that our residents definitely deserve more than what we've been giving. We are definitely looking into the issue to the fact that we wanted to make sure what we are seeing is the full picture. That's why we hired a contracting company, a contract electrical engineer to come in and review all of the scenarios that we've had over the last 6 months and what the outcomes were, what caused them, and what our beliefs were. They've taken that information back. We've got some additional information from Consumers Energy. We pulled some reports from equipment that we have in the substation. We've given that to that electrical contractor as well for them to do a full analysis on the actual station to see if we were missing something or if we're spot on with what we believe some of the issues are. They have not come back with that. I expect that to be within the next week or so. We'll have a full comprehensive report that will start to gauge, maybe a bigger picture that would be a part of that action plan, if that is the path that we end up going. You've noticed in the budget this year, we've actually already started back in January. We understood that this could potentially become an issue. So we have already started to fund some money to set aside to fix some issues that are within that substation. There are some other issues that, while they are not issues now, they're within acceptable tolerances. We're going to do our due diligence, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to address those now so that they don't become issues in the future. We've also looked at, and we've heard a lot about communication, not only online, but through customers calling in and here at the commission meeting. We do typically post all of our stuff on our Facebook page, which is also on the front page of our electric page. So anything that goes to Facebook automatically goes to our webpage. We have been, after it was brought up by the commission that they'd like to see actual restoration times, we've been doing our best to, estimate those times. You look at somebody like a Consumers that have been calculating those and historically tracking restorations time and stuff like that. We have a little bit of tweaking to do to make sure that we get, a little bit more accurate times, but that's something that we're committed to do. So that we get, as close to the restoration times that we have. But aside from that, from previous outages, we've actually been in contact in researching different companies that we could bring in. They would replace our answering service. They're more of a full-stop shop. And what would happen is, once an outage is initiated, or it doesn't even have to be an outage, just a major issue, customers would be able to call in. If they press 2, they'll automatically get a text message. That text message will contain a link. They can go to a web page, and it will constantly be updated through the dispatchers from this third party as we relay information back. It'll be tied to the GPS units in our vehicles. So they'll actually know when we've arrived on site, and they'll update that site accordingly. We'll be able to put messages on there, update information there. We have the ability to put who our trouble person is, put a picture on there, so if somebody's walking through your yard, you can say, this is the individual, they're part of the actual utility. Customers will then actually be able to, while the rest of the customers won't be able to see it, but it will be sent directly to us. They can put comments on there. If they've noticed something, they can update it. They can submit pictures. And all that stuff inevitably goes into a master log that says, resident 1 called in at this time, resident 2 called in this time, trouble truck was dispatched at this time, pictures were uploaded at this time, they arrived on scene at this time. So then we'll have an actual comprehensive report that we can, give to customers or the commission saying this is the response that actually happened. It'll help us to formulate crews a little bit easier. The way that most utilities operate is still a very antiquated way, but we have union contracts to follow. It goes based upon seniority. So when we want to call additional individuals in, the person on call says, hey, I need X number of people. They tell the answering service, they start at the top, and then they start calling down the list and trying to get X number of people to come in. Sometimes we get through that list. because some people are either busy or they don't have a time, it'll go back to the top of that list again, and then we'll end up getting staff in because they understood that it actually went through the list, and they went ahead and given up their plans to come and address this. The new way that we're going to do it is it's all digital. Everybody will have an app on their phone. The trouble truck will just push a button. It's going to send out, say, hey, we need all these people, and that's going to reduce the amount of time that the agents need to be on the phone with people, so it'll go through the process a lot quicker than having that human interaction with it, calling out staff. Aside from that, we've been, again, looking at 26th Street, not just the substation, but everything in the area. We have a planning session that we are going to follow up with tomorrow, that we're going to start looking at dedicating 2 or more crews to that particular area and to the south end. And we're going to start right from the substation, and we're going to visit every pole location, every fuse location, until we get to the end of the line, and then we're going to go to the next circuit, and we're going to do all that. If tree trimming is necessary, we'll do tree trimming. If there's other major projects that are required, we'll address those at the time. Does that kind of cover?
That covers it. Our current process now, because there's a lot of frustration when people, like the uncertainty, right, unknowing, and they have to make plans. And we had a couple speak about, just sitting there laying, not knowing what's going on. Is our current process, we have to, especially if it happens on the weekend, does staff have to come in to make these posts about, through Facebook or other message through Bay Alerts, or how does their current process work?
Yeah, so the actual process works is we'll get a call in from a customer. The customer will, relay the information that they have power, they don't have power. The agent that they speak with will try to remedy that situation. Sometimes it's just an internal issue. They want to make sure that, they've checked and done their due diligence, make sure it's not a breaker or some other issue. They'll ask them questions about, do they hear a boom? Do they hear anything else? Do they know if the neighbors are on or whatnot? Once they've got that information, they'll relay that information to our trouble truck. Our trouble truck can live anywhere within a 20-mile radius of the city. They take a city vehicle home, and they're able to respond right from their home. Once they get on scene, or while they're driving in, our dispatch center may be taking additional calls to kind of solidify the area that's actually affected. If it's just one resident, multiple residents, and it helps them once they arrive on scene to figure out where they should be focusing their attention. Is it just isolated to a neighborhood? Could it just be a transformer? Is it down the line? Could it be a line fuse? Could it go all the way back to the substation? Once they arrive on scene, they don't initially call crews, because if it is something relatively simple, they would handle it themselves. If they are not, or they are working on primary, they're required to call additional staff in. So they do their best to go ahead and figure out what the situation is, and then they determine from then how many extra employees that they're going to be in, and if they need to bring a supervisor in as well. If they do that, again, while we go down that list, the person that's there is gathering materials, whether it be figuring out what poles we need, where they are, any equipment from the station that they need to gather up. Once those crews end up coming in, we wait until everybody's there so that we can do what's called a tailboard, and that's basically a safety briefing that we go over. This is what the issue is. This is what we believe the issue is. These are our safety points to be able to, if there is an emergency, this is how we would address it. This is how we would kill it to power. They go over all that stuff, and then they go ahead and they talk about what the actual project is, just to make sure everybody's on the same page and they all know exactly what's going to happen and what's expected. Once that's done, they go ahead and they start the actual correction or repairs. And as that process is going on, we try to get updates. Thankfully, I live close enough that I usually end up showing up, just to try to, while they're working, holler out, hey, what do you got? How long do you think it's going to be? So that I can relay that information to staff that during the day, obviously, they're in the office. If they're not an on-call employee. So we have to, ask them, hey, in the middle of the night, or depending on what it is, can you get up and put a Facebook post out there? With this other answering service, the nice thing that will be with them is it'll actually be the agents that will have access to be able to do that for us, and we won't have to rely on, certain individuals to make that post. And they'll have all the information on hand already.
Perfect. I think that'll be a huge help to residents. And then the other question I have is about staffing. I know that at some point we did lose some staffing. Different consumers, whatnot, DTE were hiring at a higher rate of pay, and we made some adjustments. I mean, where is our current staffing levels? Are we fully staffed, or?
So for our line division, we are one shy of being fully staffed, and that was because of a recent resignation. They went out and started their own contracting company. We are struggling to, find additional individuals. Some of the individuals that we have gotten are A linemen, so they've been in the trade for a while, which is a benefit. The downside is they're not familiar with our system as somebody that, necessarily went through the apprenticeship and worked their way up. But they know the trade, they know, how to make the repairs and stuff like that. So that's definitely a benefit. What we did, and you've kind of alluded to it, in the past, we did lose a lot of experience. Our trouble truck last night, the gentleman that was there, he had been an A lineman for a year, so he was fairly new in the process. And he was the one that came in to, actually start it. We have approximately 3, what I would call, original or old timers that have been on the system for a while. The remaining line staff is extremely new. And I think the one right underneath them, I think he had been a lineman for 3 years now. So, I mean, we have a relatively young, new staff that they don't have that old school knowledge of. They didn't build the system out from the ground up when it happened. So does it take a little bit longer, for them to, get familiar and get comfortable with what's going on? Yes, that's why we have supervisors that can come in, and help address that situation until we get them to be known as the quote-unquote old-timers that understand the system better.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. I support this resolution. I think, it puts together hopefully a matrix or some kind of plan, timelines, and that we can review, and we're kind of working together. It really, we need to address this issue, and I a lot of these things I hope to see happen, and it'll help residents. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any others? Commissioner Ehrlicher?
Sorry, I got distracted earlier and didn't make any of my comments on this. First of all, it does sound like you have a decent, plans in place or ideas started. So I'm glad that you guys are looking at this. This is really so that we can put some of that to the public, so we can see some of the things that are going on. As we mentioned a lot today, it's really about communication. So I want to recognize that you've started some of the work. You're looking at these things. But I am looking forward to seeing. I think it's important for us to have that action plan in place. And I also want to just give thanks to our linemen who are out there doing the work, right? A lot of times it's a blizzard or it's a storm, or it's the weekend. So I do recognize that they're doing a lot of work out there, getting us up and going as soon as possible.
Thank you.
So.
All right, thank you. Any others? I have one question, I guess. So everything that you've listed is a fantastic catalog of things that are coming in the near future to rectify this, and you're working within the confines of what you already have. My question for you is, what can this board do to add to that? What can we do to allow you to do more? What can we do to help you be successful in making sure that the power outages are just a bad memory? What can we do for that?
Absolutely. So, I will preface this with saying I understand that budgets are tight in most situations. We deal with the same thing. We play budget gymnastics every year as issues come up. We have had projects that have been in our capital projects that we've had to push because of issues like this and shift the money around. It becomes difficult, as you witnessed today. We're taking approximately $6.5 million from fund balance, and majority, if not all of that, is dedicated simply to capital projects. So, Mr. Martini had mentioned that we are in the process of doing or we will be in the process of doing a cost of service study. I know some of the hangups in the past is we don't like to see rate increases. I don't like to see rate increases. I would rather not do a rate increase. But the reality is, in order to get some of the things in place that the commission and the community would like and deserves, it's going to take additional capital funds to do that. Right now, as it sits today, and they're actually in the process, our local competitor is approximately 21% more on their residential rates than we are. And it becomes, we get compared to them. We have a total of 46 staff members, and they're in the thousands. Obviously, they do have a larger service territory and stuff like that, but they have a little bit bigger talent pool to pull from, in order to focus on specialized projects. So one of the things is I just ask that when we do present the cost of service study, that you at least have an open mind, understand that it's not something we want to do, and we're not just asking to ask. And again, just be open-minded, and we work together to try to figure out the best way to get the residents what they deserve.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we will move on to voting on it. Will the clerk please call the roll? Thank you, Mr. Webster.
Commissioner Gerard?
Yes.
Clements?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Dockett?
Yes.
Rivet?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Runner?
Yes.
Hilliker?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion is adopted. Will the clerk please call the next and I believe final item of tonight's agenda?
It's Commissioner Bernie's resolution.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Bernie? You have to speak into the microphone. Could you, into the microphone
What?
for the recording, for your motion?
Move. Oh, move. I'm daydreaming. Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Morris?
Second.
Thank you. Is there discussion? Commissioner Clements?
Yes, thank you. I looked up the last, at the end, it references MCL 168.200 Michigan legislation. I think that, can I ask Commissioner Bernie a question through the chair to Commissioner Bernie?
You may, but she does not have to
All right.
Thank you.
Is that law referenced referring to minutes, the minutes sentence right before it?
What I'm really into, it's not about the clerk. I'm just saying about her, it's not about the clerk. It's about you guys making this mess up about this bridge. That's the whole resolution. If you want to nitpick on saying you messed up. Pass the resolution, guys. That's what it's for. It's for the attorneys to come in here and see if it was breached. It's not for you guys to do the click-clack. You did it. You did it. It's for the people. Do it for the people. What is so wrong with seeing if the contract was breached? What is so wrong with that? You all did it.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't vote for this because MCL 168.200 refers to Michigan election law, where it's talking about county clerks, treasurers, registers of deeds, prosecuting attorneys, sheriff, drain commissioner, and a survey when they should be elected and if those offices should ever be combined, and if they're combined, which ones are elected. So, I mean, I'm not going to vote for something that references a law that doesn't even pertain to anything with the resolution. So,
Commissioner Bernie, thank you. Commissioner Clements, are you all set?
Yes, I'm all set.
Thank you. Commissioner Brunner had his hand up.
All right, yes, through the chair to Commissioner Bernie. Where are the funds supposed to come from to bring the lawyers back? Because they're definitely not from Bay City.
The funds, our tax money that you take. People, the city of Bay City deserve that. They pay taxes. What are you talking about?
Well,
What are you talking about? The city of Bay City?
We
Can't have attorneys to come in and see about those tolls?
We just went through a budget. Which fund would you like to see them come through? We just
Out of
went through a budget.
the little parks, you want to do the swing sets and all of these things. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so
You want the
obviously there's-
people to have their credit
point
cards
of
go
order.
bad?
Point of
talked over
order.
each
I
other.
have the floor right now.
Thank you.
So there's really no plan for this. I can't support this either.
Thank you. Are you all set, Commissioner Brenner?
I am all set, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivet?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think there's a solution to this. I think we're, actually, I'm very concerned about the fact that everybody wants this to happen. And I think we should postpone and try and maybe redraft to ease people's concerns, and then go from there. So I think everybody believes that it's our responsibility to ensure Bay City Bridge Partners is doing their job. Perhaps this resolution in its current form is not the exact vehicle, but I think its intent is appropriate. So I move to postpone.
Thank you. Is there any objection to postponing? Is there a second to postponing? Commissioner Gerard?
I second.
Okay. Is there discussion on postponing? Commissioner Clements?
Yes, does postponing mean that it'll be rewritten? And if so, who rewrites it?
So postponing would just be until somebody brings it back. So if Commissioner Rivet wants to work on rewriting it with Commissioner Burney, they can work together on that.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any, Commissioner Gerard?
I'm just going to comment. I mean, I did submit a resolution already, and it was drafted. It was asked to hold off. But it was submitted, and it wasn't being addressed. It was brought up, and so it's already in place, and it calls for, in a very simple form, that it is reviewed because of concern. So it is in the clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. I also am in agreement with postponing. This has some factual errors as well as mechanical errors, so I'm good with that to get sorted out. Is there any objection to postponing?